Welcome to the Curies webinar series. I'm Jason Francisco, Director of Client Relationships, and today I'm with Chris Sawotin, CEO of Curies Healthcare. Chris, thanks for doing this.
Hey, happy to be here, Jason, and thanks everyone for joining us.
So Chris, a little context for our audience. You've been building healthcare data systems for over 20 years across the United States, and you're no stranger to artificial intelligence. But I understand you're not here to hype it up or to rush it along. Instead, you're looking to help organizations get themselves into position to successfully harness and deploy a very exciting and powerful tech tool.
Yeah. That's really why we're here today. I've watched several technology waves hit healthcare, and AI is genuinely the most transformative yet. I'm a big believer in what AI can do to improve our efficiencies and outcomes across the healthcare landscape. But I'm not alone in raising the flag that says it has to be done well. I'll take the example of UC Davis and Dr. Jason Adams. He leads the data governance and AI oversight program there. He's also an ICU physician and he's running an AI research lab. So he's benefiting from seeing this challenge from both sides, the clinical side as well as the infrastructure side. And what UC Davis did was they built an enterprise-wide data governance data center of excellence before they started deploying their AI at scale. They developed formal frameworks for evaluating every AI model before it touches any patient care. The results, well, they achieved the HIMSS Stage 6 analytics maturity. They're only one of 5 health systems in the country to reach that level. So UC Davis's approach is certainly the exception and not the rule. The take home from the minority of organizations that are getting massive value from AI deployment is that the fundamentals of data management don't go away just because the technology is exciting. If anything, AI really raises the stakes on getting the data right. And that's what the industry is learning right now.
Well, that's exactly what we want to unpack today. We want to look at why the vast majority of healthcare AI projects are failing to deliver ROI. We want to know what's going on beneath the surface. So folks, I'm excited for the next 25 minutes. We're about to have a candid conversation on all the things Chris has seen work and not work with AI after his 2 decades in the data trenches. Let's dive in. Chris, I was hoping, let's start with a big picture, okay? Checkbooks are wide open. Healthcare AI investment is booming. So what's the problem? Where's the disconnect?
Main disconnect is that the money's flowing, but the results aren't. So healthcare AI investments have topped $1.4 billion last year. The C-suite's buy-in is at 85% according to HFMA. Adoption rates are above 63%, and that figure came from McKinsey. So everyone has AI initiatives, and if they don't, they're planning one. But the rub is that MIT sampled 300 AI pilots, and a majority of them were healthcare. 95% delivered zero financial benefit. Zero. So Gartner's saying that 85% of AI models fail outright, but they trace these results to the information that they were fed. RAND and broader industry surveys put overall failure rates above 80%, with the underlying data environment cited as the dominant factor for failure. So we're in what Vizient calls the prove it era. Leaders are on the hook to justify every dollar. And this isn't just about money. When patient outcomes are tied to the data, the stakes go way beyond our budgets.
I heard BlackRock Research actually put out a warning on this, yes?
Yeah, they did. And they cautioned healthcare leaders about the collective FOMO, fear of missing out, making decisions based on enthusiasm and vendor marketing rather than the realities. And the financial research firm saying that that's not a skeptic on the sidelines. It's when BlackRock is telling you this, it's time to slow down and think. The thing about AI tools is no matter how advanced, are only as good as the data they rely on. Immature tools have been rushed to the market based off of ROI projections, and they assume impeccable data that only exists in a demo or prototype environment.
So if data is the common denominator, what specifically is going wrong? I mean, where are you consistently seeing a breakdown?
I like to boil it down to the 4 roadblocks that we keep showing up in all the failed projects. The first is the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. That's a big one. The algorithm is only as good as the data you feed it. In the healthcare data landscape, it's vast and it's chaotic. We're ingesting terabytes of data from countless sources. They're not designed necessarily to talk to each other. Formats aren't consistent, information's missing, inaccurate, nothing really seems to agree. And AI really doesn't fix those types of flaws, it actually amplifies them. The second is about data access and interoperability. Critical information sits behind these artificial barriers. If your AI tool can't see the full picture, it can't generate accurate insights. So in healthcare, the full picture means data from a lot of different systems, and they don't naturally talk to each other. The third is about workflow and its friction. So according to Becker's, the users abandon AI tools that require clicks or disrupt familiar processes. If there's no immediate efficiency payoff, adoption flatlines. People go back to what they were doing before. And the fourth is the unrealistic expectations out there. AI has been hyped as a silver bullet. Vendors tend to gloss over the basic requirements, like the fact that you need clean, comprehensive evidence base for HIPAA compliant type decisions. So what usually is happening is the business side falls in love with some demo that they show they see that is showing exactly what they're hoping. You just, why don't we already have this? And then AI, and then the IT department gets handed the job of making it work inside of a real data environment instead of the prototype which they were sold on. And the quality gap is where the projects stall, or worse, they're implemented and generate outcomes you just can't trust.
You know what, Chris? You mentioned something earlier about an AI vendor that they had a great model, but no healthcare data expertise. And that sounds like something our audience might like to learn more about. Can you share a little more on that?
Yeah. It actually came from a discussion that I was following along on Reddit, which is surprisingly an excellent resource for some very candid healthcare IT insight. But there's an individual describing their situation where they had a very talented AI vendor, had a great model, and it had proven results in their particular controlled environment. And it was, solving the exact problem the organization needed. And that was great. But 5 months later, they were still trying to figure out how to get the right data out of the health system's environment to feed their model. And it's really not a reflection of the vendor being bad. It was they're great at AI. It's just that they really didn't have the proper data to train their model to begin with. So great at understanding the business results they could deliver with the right data. But dealing with the anomalies of how healthcare organizations actually store and move information, the clearinghouses and trading partners and formats, missing fields, that just wasn't really their expertise. And so there's a common pattern that we're seeing is that the AI may be ready, but the data isn't. Nobody budgets the 5 months of delay to sort that sort of thing out.
Okay, that hits home for me. Definitely sobering. But now where do we go? Well, what's the path forward? Is there a way to beat these odds?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a silver lining. The math is actually quite encouraging when you understand how to leverage it. So here's the picture. Based off of the benchmarks we just talked about, the baseline success rate for healthcare AI pilots is roughly 1 in 8. Call it 12%. Actually deliver measurable results, and that's just the starting point. So now if you address data quality, if you implement what I call a data first strategy before you deploy AI, then your research suggests you can improve those odds by a factor of 4 to as much as 16 times, depending on where you started. At midpoint, this means that you go from a 1 in 8 success to roughly 4 in 5, and that's fundamentally a completely different risk profile.
Okay, I'm thinking data first. So when you speak of a data first strategy, can you help us understand what that looks like in real life for like a healthcare department?
Sure. Well, let's break it down into 3 different elements. First, you got to fix the foundation before you build on it. You make sure that your data, your AI tools are consuming accurate, complete, and timely data. You don't assume the data is fine just because it's there. You fact check it against your systems of record. Second, you use healthcare data experts to prepare and manage that data, not just AI experts. This is a really important distinction. An AI vendor may be brilliant at building models, but dealing with the anomalies of clearinghouse data, the quirks of different trading partners, and the gaps that show up in real world healthcare data flows, that's a completely different discipline. It's like hiring a great decorator for the new house you're building and skipping the architect. And then third, don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good. A lot of organizations know they need better data management, but the enterprise scale version of that project sits on shelves for years, waiting for the proper budget and priority to occur. These projects can take forever to get across the finish line when you do try them as a massive enterprise initiative. Meanwhile, your AI pilot is sitting 6-month runway and your team is burning through it. So improving AI success isn't about tinkering with the algorithm. It's about curating the data that allows algorithms to be successful. That's the essence of a data first strategy.
So, what I hear you saying is organizations don't necessarily need $1 million data overhaul to get this part right.
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying, Jason. And honestly, it's one of the biggest misconceptions holding people back. They think, well, we need to solve our entire enterprise data problem before we can do anything with AI properly. And it's backwards. It's you need to have reliable and conformed data layer that can serve the specific AI use case or needs. And that's a much more realistic and achievable goal.
Okay, Chris, let's talk a little bit about Curis. Curis has been building data management systems in healthcare for a really long time. Can you share something you've learned through trial and error that could help someone in our audience today who's wrestling with these AI data issues right now?
Yeah, sure. A couple things come to mind. First of all, at Curis, our solutions have always lived and died on data quality. We're in the business of eliminating desktop procedures, streamlining operations through specialized automation. So our stuff literally doesn't work if the data is bad. So we had to master data quality a long time ago, and that was out of necessity. What that taught us is that healthcare data has its own set of challenges that generic tools just don't handle very well. We built what we call a health data model. This is not a novelty. It's something that we've been perfecting for years to handle the full spectrum of anomalies you encounter across real healthcare data feeds. Because we built this from the ground up, we know where every data element should go. We know when something's missing. And we have automated fact checking against the systems of records so the outbound feed is as accurate as possible. Essentially, what I'm saying is don't forget the basics when you're doing AI enablement. That's where you mitigate the most of your risk. The second lesson is about flexibility. Organizations come in all shapes and sizes. Some have strong IT departments that want their own processes. Others need more of a white glove approach. The worst thing you can do is to allow the decision of who's going to do what to create the barrier of actually getting started. You need a vendor relationship that adapts to your team, not the other way around. And the third is maybe the most important. There's a new category of tool emerging that just didn't exist 5 years ago. The concept of a data utility, something that can sit alongside your existing tools, take in data from many sources, validate it, conform it, and then deliver feeds to whatever AI products you're deploying. That utility exists today, and it doesn't require this multi-year project plan to implement.
Chris, we have coming up here some very interesting real world questions. But before we get there, you've been so gracious with your time and candidness. If you could have people take away one thing from this conversation so far, what would you like it to be?
Yeah, well, I guess the difference between success and failure just isn't the AI algorithm. It's really the data. You don't need to be afraid of AI per se. The organizations that get the data foundation right and choose mature tools from vendors that understand the healthcare business, they're going to see transformative results and impressive ROI. But the foundation has to come first. A data first strategy is your insurance policy for your AI investments.
And how about for those folks who feel the need to keep exploring?
Well, we put together an AI readiness checklist. It's got all the research behind the numbers that we talked about today. You'll find it on our website. And if any of this resonates with you and you want to talk through it with your organization, we'd be happy to have that conversation.
Great. It looks like we have about 10 minutes to address some questions from our audience. These, like I mentioned earlier, were actually pre-submitted. And our first question comes from Candace at a health plan. Candace is asking, you mentioned the basics still apply, but what governance or controls should be in place before an organization launches an AI pilot?
Yeah, that's a great question, Candice. So, at a minimum, you got to have three things. You need your data quality controls. So, automated validation that checks incoming data against the system of record and not spot checking by your analysts. You need clear accountability for who owns the data that's feeding the AI. And you need the privacy and compliance guardrails, especially around HIPAA. AI is powerful, but if you have the right lens of privacy, security, and ethics in place before you turn it loose on patient data, you're going to improve your odds. And honestly, only about 15% of healthcare organizations have adapted the governance to keep up with the pace of AI, according to Gartner. So if you're behind on that, you're not alone, but it does need to be a priority.
Next, Robert from Texas is asking, he says, we are a mid-sized health plan. We don't have a massive IT department or a budget for that matter. Is a data first strategy realistic for organizations our size, or is that really just for the big players?
Yeah, this is an area that I feel very strongly about. And a lot of traditional approaches to enterprise data management, there's these big platforms and multi-year projects. Well, they're really designed for those large organizations that have large budgets. And it seems to have left a real gap in the market. So the mid-sized plans know they need better data infrastructure, but the project scope and the price tag, it's traditionally out of reach for them. So what's changed is the emergency of what I like to call the data utility model. Think of it as like an electrical utility. You don't build your own power plant, you just plug it in. So there are now tools available that can sit alongside your existing stack, ingest data from your sources, validate and conform it, and deliver clean feeds to your AI tools or analytic systems. It doesn't require you ripping out any of your existing installation, and it doesn't require a 3-year project to install. So this is absolutely realistic for mid-sized organizations today. In fact, in some ways, it's even more critical for them because they have less margin for error on a failed AI project.
So we also have a few questions coming in from IT leaders that are dealing with their board of directors. It seems like this would be common. It says, how do I build the business case for investing in data quality when my board sees a fancy demo, they get swept up in the hype, and now they just want AI results?
Right. We see this one all the time, Jason. And so the framing that seems to work is you show them the cost of not investing in the data quality. Point them to the failure rates that we are discussing. Those numbers, they do the heavy lifting of the story. And then you can show them the multiplier effect. That's the slide you want your CFO to see. It reframes data quality from a cost center into risk mitigation strategies for your AI projects and budget.
Okay, a few people are also asking if we're evaluating AI vendors right now, what should we be asking them about their data uh, and or their services?
Right. So I think one of the big questions to ask is around what the assumptions that the vendor's making about the data they're going to receive. If they can't give you a specific detailed answer, there's a red flag number one. How your model is trained and how closely does that training match your actual production environment? Because a model trained on perfect curated data will struggle with the real world healthcare environment. And then the third is, what's your plan when that data doesn't match your assumptions? We know that's going to be the reality. And the vendors that have thoughtful answers to that question are the ones that are likely going to be the best vendors for you to work with.
Here's one more for you, Chris. What's the first step for someone who's convinced they need a data first approach, but they're just not sure where to begin?
Start with an honest assessment of your current data state. Where your data coming from, how many sources, what's your confidence level in its accuracy, and how much time your team is spending on manual reconciliation and desktop workarounds. If your team's spending 50, 80% of the analyst time on kind of data cleanup, that's going to tell you something. That's where the AI readiness checklist we mentioned comes in. It helps you to map out where you're actually at. And then, just be honest what you can realistically achieve with the resources you have. If your timeline for AI is 6 months, but your data roadmap stretches to 2028, you've got a gap you need to close. And there are faster paths to close that now. The test technology finally exists to get there without the $1 million MDM overhaul.
Well, Chris, this has been a fantastic conversation. We really appreciate you sharing all of your experience, perspective, and your passion for helping people and improving healthcare.
Thanks, Jason. And thanks everyone for your time today. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone with us today when I say our mission has always been to improve lives by improving the efficiency in healthcare. AI is going to be crucial to that. We just have to get the foundation right.
Thank you, Chris. For more resources, you can check out our blog post and our AI readiness checklist at curies.com. Thanks again for joining everyone, and get out there and have yourself a great day.